Yesterday, I think I figured out what I believe about God. Now, you might think that being 66 years old, I ought to have figured that out by now, but I'm guessing in 5 years I will have figured something else out. I was raised a Methodist, and then as soon as I could drive, I would drive down to the Unitarian Church and drink coffee with old hippies and talk about civic problems. And then I spent a few years smoking dope, and then I became a gung-ho Mormon, and then I danced with some Sufis for a little bit and meditated with some devotees of Sri Chinmoy. And then when I moved back here to Federal Way, I attended a Methodist church again, and I realized that I'm kind of a disruptive influence, and so I thought it just ain't fair to those good Methodists for me to go and disrupt their Sunday school lessons. So I haven't been doing anything. And here's what I figured out. I figured out that I don't exactly have faith, and I believe in God as I understand the definition of believe to be from Old German. It was something like beleben or belieben, meaning to put one's heart upon, to rest the love of one's heart upon. And so that's what I am doing. As a voluntary choice, I am choosing to put my heart upon a belief in God. Now, I think it's kind of like those sunglasses that maybe they're UV protection, or maybe they're polarized light, or maybe both, but you put them on and it's kind of a different color out there, and everything's much more distinct, but it's kind of fun to use that, to look at it with that different color. So this is how I'm looking at my belief in God. It's a purely voluntary choice, like wearing those special sunglasses. So once upon a time I was fasting and praying about whether I ought to marry a particular person, and the answer came at the end of the day as I sat and looked at the sun going down. You have enough spiritual maturity to decide that question for yourself. Okay, that could have come from my subconscious. So let me make it clear. I am aware of all of the very compelling arguments that there could not possibly be a God. Here we are, these mean, genocidal killer apes, and we've evolved, but not enough. And here we are in this whirling dirt ball in a completely empty void of space. And there's a whole lot of good reasons why there probably isn't any other intelligent life, or at least we're never going to hear from them. The distances are too great. The window of opportunity for complex life to develop is somewhat short in the lifespan of a planet and a solar system. So we're all alone, this bunch of killer apes, and the Holocaust, Stalin, Mao, how many hundreds of millions of people have they killed? I know dang well that there's precious little reason for a rational person to believe in God, but I choose to wear those sunglasses. I was once trying to figure out, what is the role of Jesus Christ? What was the purpose of his torment and crucifixion? I had a very sweet, special experience that I believe answered my question. And It could have been my subconscious. Very good argument to make that it was my self-conscious. A woman that I know was driving along with a broken heart, and she was crying about her marriage breaking up, and she began to pray, and she said it was like hands took hold of her heart and pressed it back together and made it whole. Could have been the subconscious very easily. I've read the book Life After Life, and all these experiences of people who've had near-death experiences. And then I have talked to a couple of them, including an old Sioux Indian who reported just about exactly what gets reported in that book. You know, could be some life last gasp of the brain, even though the brain's totally flatlined. Okay, I got it. It's just that, I'm telling you, I prefer to choose those fancy sunglasses. And that's how I prefer to interpret what's going on in my life, is that there is a God. Now, I gotta admit that what I believe is that that God is completely unimaginable by the human brain. So these words like Father and Son and Holy Spirit, they're like things you teach a child to make sense of a very complicated adult world. Child has no ability to understand what's going on, but you give them some tools. That's what we've got here. So all of our concepts, all of our words are these almost silly attempts to make sense of something that we cannot make sense of because we don't have the sensory apparatus. Our eyes are the most significant sensory apparatus that we have, and with them we think we understand everything. But all you got to do is read the accounts of people who were blind from birth and then were given their eyesight, and the amazing limitations that they suffered under with no eyesight, and how astonished, I mean, what a cognitive labor it is for them to try and get their minds around how enormous the world is. Well, the world doesn't look that enormous to us because we can see it. And that's what I'm getting at, is that there's enormity, complexity out there that we cannot possibly get because we don't have the sensory apparatus to get it. So when I'm lying on the acupuncturist's bed and I'm full of needles, and so I'm very, very still, as one feels the need to be when full of needles. And in that stillness, I sense my mother, and I sense that I want to join my mother, and I want to know if she's with me. It's just the sunglasses that I desire to put on. That's just how I choose to see and interpret my life. And I like it. It's working pretty good for me. I'll get back to you in 5 years and tell you what I've figured out then.